huge heterogeneous compute, which means we can have the same operating pool that are doing general ledger or back office processing and also doing inference or chat GPT like things in our own data source.
And then you could be benefiting from things that are small language models or vertical models, which are specific to your business or your industry, which are also adding efficiency.
Welcome to Embracing Digital Transformation, where we explore how people, process, policy, and technology drive effective change. This is Dr. Darren, Chief Enterprise Architect, educator, author, and most importantly, your host.
On this episode, Small Language Models in Enterprise, the Public Gen AI Killer, with returning guest Lynn Comp from Intel Corporation.
Lynn, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Darren. I'm glad to be back.
I would say what your superpower we already know.
Oh, yes, you do.
Yeah, we do. My opera singing VP, right? I look back at all my episodes. You're the third opera singer I've had on my show.
You know, you mentioned that.
It's just crazy. It's crazy. So there's something about music and high tech.
I agree. If math.
But hey, yeah, but we're not going to talk about opera today, even though that might be an interesting show one of these days. Let's talk about a big, huge trend that we're seeing in AI and the enterprise.
Yeah, it is such a big transformation, and people are really struggling with how to view it. There's a lot of benchmarks in the industry that don't necessarily translate into, well, what does that mean for my business and my business operations? So there's a lot of really good meat to talk about.
Yeah, so let's talk about the benchmarks first, because this one confuses a lot of people, right? Tokens, that's all we ever hear about. Your tokens per second, or how many tokens is that query or that prompt going to take? What in the world, how does that apply to enterprise?
You know, tokens are a great supply side metric because it's very similar to megabytes. How quickly can you get bits out? And so it's a very easy translation for hardware providers. I can do this number of tokens. And very typical for tech world, you end up with more is better, faster is better. But we're not really translating what that means to humans.
Well, except I know, right, when I'm on ChatGPT myself, that I run out of tokens. I know that.
That's right, because the subscriptions limit the number of tokens, right? And then it comes back, he says, oh, you can start again tomorrow.
Yeah, except because I'm limited, right? Because it's so tokens are things that are consumed, unlike gigahertz or megahertz, right?
Sure, that's true.
So how does that play in enterprise, or does it even have a play in enterprise at all?
A lot of it depends on whether the use case is something that is interacting with humans, because humans really cannot need more than 20 tokens per second. So it's essentially how quickly does the chatbot respond to you? Slower means fewer tokens per second. Faster means more tokens.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so it really is down to response times. Now, here's the thing that's important. You have to understand what are the use cases where it is mission critical and I will either get paid more for faster response times or I will have a greater chance of liability for slower response times, because there's a return on acceleration. So let me give you an analogy. Ferraris are amazing on racetracks. They have the best output, throughput, race conditions. Ferraris that are driving through a school zone to get groceries.
Not very good.
Think of human consumption as at the school zone and going to the grocery store, because we don't operate at the speed of light, but the machines do. So depending on whether your use case is something like real-time fraud detection, that's really important to have in milliseconds. And you either get paid for doing that upside, or you get recognized in a liability for not doing that, depending on your business. That's really important to think about. How many tokens can I possibly get? How quickly? Now, if you're dealing with humans that are checking legal audits or expense audits, where the system and the agency scan all of these, they're working agents and they're working together. And the human has to look at the observations in that agentic workflow. It could be 10 tokens per second. It could be 150 tokens per second. 150 will not get you any more than 10.
So yeah, but what's the downside of going with higher token rate?
Well, it's basically a question of can you afford to add also just to teach that's a higher cost. More tokens is higher cost. It can represent you when you're using a chatbot. More tokens can mean you get less consumption or you have to pay more if it is a Tsurushi. More tokens in an enterprise context generally means you're adding specialized firmware that is not part of your current tech stack that requires its own power supply. Sometimes liquid cooling. Are you liquid cooled or air cooled? Do you have to
Lots of huge
data fresh? So it really comes down to don't do something they look for the use cases that are manual, that annoying, require a lot cross-checking comparisons. And if it's a human in a lift, then look for what can be. I think you and I were talking about green AI. Here's what you've got. You'd have a whole fleet in enterprises. They generally are about 40% utilized. Just for caution on backup and could be users a peak. That's 60% of your fleet. You could probably use for some of these human use cases where speed is a life or death, where speed is not acceptable.
So this is really interesting because what you're saying is we can take advantage of our current enterprise architecture that we already have. We don't have to uproot our data centers. We don't have to have huge heterogeneous compute, which means we can have the same operating pool that are doing general ledger or back office processing and also doing inference or chat GPT like things in our own data centers.
And then you can be benefiting from things that are small language models or vertical models, which are specific to your business or your industry, which are also adding efficiency. Because if your business is not needing to write haiku, input Shakespeare, and create video images for fun, then you may not get value out of the biggest budgets. So really understanding what is this going to add to my business? And I guess, will I get more revenue or will I get more, reduce my liability risk? Those are really, really important.
Okay, so where do we start with this? Because we've talked about public gen AI, Vulcan AI, all the Grok, all the ones that are out there. Fob. You're talking different. You're talking private gen AI. So running my own language models on my own data center stuff. Small language models can run on just CPUs. So where do I start? How do I start taking? Where do I go to make that happen?
So I think the first thing would be to start experimenting with some basic use cases. The recommendations I tend to make are data processing, data summarization, because that takes advantage of something called RAGs. They would throw these terms around, but think of it as, what did that document say? So you can make very quick judgment, because AI doesn't do judgment. AI just summarizes and predicts.
Summarize it. I love how you said that, because a lot of people say, oh, AI is going to tell me what to do.
Well, unfortunately,
But if you can give me information so I can make a decision and see, okay, so there's a big difference between the two.
Absolutely. And the thing that's real important with these RAG use cases, they need to be secure because it's your business data. AI, Brits would say, that's not integrated and bolted into or traditional data systems, with their own data structures. It's not going to actually be AI benefiting your business because it won't work on your business data.
So this is interesting. Maybe this is why there's a new MIT report that just came out past March. It said 95% of Gen AI business POCs are failures.
Yeah.
You think that's because they did look at the business case that they for just
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of it comes down to feeling like he has to do something with AI as opposed to intelligently thinking from the start, what should those use cases be that have been benefit us? There's a lot checked at in data quality, data fencing. So there's work to be done there. And, with the MIT study that you're referencing, most enterprises, their IT are trained, if it's a mature stable tech stack. And it's got disaster recovery. You leave that sucker alone. You're not just going to go add new technology because it's new and it's better. And so there's a cautionary element on where do I apply it, because it is going to bring you to data systems in traditional business workflow.
Well, that totally makes sense because when I was a CIO, I wanted to be invisible to the world,
Right.
right? Because CIOs are not invisible to the board when there's problems,
Exactly.
right? So, and that makes sense. IT organizations are typically risk averse because I have to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
CI projects are very disruptive.
Yeah, and the challenge is that if you view it like it's its own separate thing, then you're duplicating your data systems to be able to use AI.
All I did was create another deal.
All you said was create a data silo and more cost and more storage. And so really the best thing to do is prototype small and tight. Small and tight. Take advantage of the extra capacity you have and then really judge whether new hardware is necessary based on will I get if I'm running faster,
Or decrease my liability.
will I decrease my liability because I ran faster? And if that map works in it, that translates meaningfully to token count. If that math doesn't work out, then you're hearing a pitch for the tech spire based on why they have more tokens that so different matter. But you're going roughly with the cost, with the duplication.
So, and also new infrastructure that I don't necessarily know how to manage. Maybe I already have all my infrastructure totally optimized to run like a dream. I can sleep on the weekends. Yeah, stay time.
Do you want to reopen your infrastructure, do open heart surgery, or do you want to really start small, deliver capabilities to the customers of the IT party just in your business, and then as demand peaks, which it usually does, then you've got your data, tech debt taken care of,
Easy.
and then you can justify, I can support 10,000 users with just a CPU, 32 node cluster that I have. I use the extra 60% in utilization for AI. Well, now 20,000 need to use it. So I'm going to add some small sauce. And so looking at it from that perspective of, for this spent, what do I get? More revenue?
So a lot more logical I've seen over the last 3 years in this crazy AI spin. That's no ROI at all. Very, very.
There's revenue. It's just more investment in revenue.
Okay, so let's talk about individual use cases. You mentioned summarization. Where would you find those little nuggets? What kind of use cases?
One of the most useful things for summarization inside enterprises, our own sellers at Intact they have a tool called EDA, which is basically a database of all the support calls and questions and answers. When you on the phone with a customer whose line's down, and I started out as an application teacher, I lived this. Having something that very quickly summarizes, if somebody else sees this, what is the possible cause?
Because before we have an email list, the solutions email list, and you send out an email, oh please, someone help me with this.
Yeah.
And you would just wait.
Through the roof. The OpEx costs when the oracles are just put it flat because the API calls, if you do them straight, the $30 call. So then that's on top of your cloud instance organization. If you have a 5,000 person customer support organization hitting at rag bully, this is where small language models, things that help keep things within bounds of your business. Customer support is a big main one. I've had somebody tell me they've seen a call center of 20,000 people ring on 4 servers. There's some acceleration then been adding to that. You're not talking H200 black modes. You're talking, very inexpensive GPU accelerators, but that's 4 servers. So it's intelligent architecture workflows. That really makes a big difference.
I see call centers one. Another one that I see is policy analyzer. I don't know what the right word is, but like the policy chatbot. What's the I've even used it myself with weird travel reach. When they say, I say, what's the travel policy? Can I do this? And it says, hey, here are the guidelines. Here's how you could do what you want to do. See feet. So I'm seeing people use it for internal. Like, how does this work? How does this work? HR policies. This is some big crap.
Yeah, and there's another brave one that I see. I've seen it used in insurance, and I've seen it used in just business expense audit, where somebody submits an expense report, and instead of being us having to look at the receipts and go, is this a legit price? They're basically the AI model is trained to look across its via. Is there anything here that's out of sorts who doesn't make sense? And that we recommend we should look into this deeper, or I don't buy any of these. So it just helps the human not have to do as many actions.
I'm glad you kept the human on there because we had a little bit of talk about this earlier. The human still needs to help make the decision.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yeah, AI is not going to give you a judgment. AI is going to help very quickly collect information, represent information, so that you can use your judgment. Some critical thinking, which is really important because you see a lot of AI chatbots and online speaking some very dicey recommendations. And so it's not replacement or critical thinking. It's a tool to get information in format that you can think or critically fast.
okay, so what that means is we have to retrain some of our workforce.
Yes.
Because a lot of our workforce, and I've noticed this, humans become the glue between the processes and data and things like that. We put humans in the area where data is more unstructured or esoteric or things like that, right? That part of our job is being replaced.
Yeah, the data is the story is no longer about. And it's interesting because if you look at trying to develop power techniques, you've got most people are spending a day a week, if not more, on developing paths. So I think that's a good place to eat fun efficiency. And so is really data that's structured so that you can make recommendations and include its humans. Otherwise, we wouldn't be presenting. And so, if you think about it, he's not respecting, prompting to get power to be out of direction, where you got financial results, so you got customer service, you got things like that, all being put into the project, past the chatbot, great power. Then it needs to look like it's busy. If you know what your narrative is,
Then you're
it's going to be just like a typical PowerPoint that's poorly by somebody who asks the buyer, what is my unit trade?
so I love that because what it means is we have to up our game with series. As an executive myself, I can't tell you how many PowerPoints I looked at and sent back and said to me, I have no idea where you're going. Right? So what that means is we as humans have to train ourselves more on critical thinking, on communications. These are three core skills that we're going to have to learn to redo. I think we've been relying too much on, I don't know what right is. I was so busy gathering all the data.
I don't know what I'm supposed to show. And that's where you have gaps in being able to influence decisions. It's exodus because they're very impatient because they have very little time. It cannot be enough spark deeply. And so if you don't tell them, here's the decision that has to be made, here's the recommendations, and here's the support is needed up front. And then you build the layers of the why, how is that? Then even with fraud, what comes after?
That's a great question. You're going to still any questions even. So this tells me we've got to do a better job upskilling our ignorance, right? To become AI augmented. That's a term I'm starting to use for it more. Is AI augmented, right? Not AI replaced. But if you really value your employees and you value your company, then you want more intelligence at the table.
Yeah, I mean, the humans are the ones with the judgment. And, I joke in the newsfeed, me, drink caffeine, do stupid stuff faster. And when you look at blind AI, It's do stupid stuff at work speed.
How do you right?
And so you just need that human judgment attitude because the what is what's accelerated. Your judgment and the insights about what does this need? Strategically, you will take action.
Also, what it tells me is we should be able to elevate our businesses by adopting this appropriate because we're going to make smarter decisions. We're going to be strategic and let the tactics get themselves through automation and things like that. So that to me is the sweet spot for enterprise to be successful.
Let me see.
And I don't need to write haiku. I don't need that general model to do that sort of stuff.
No, you don't. You really don't. For most of business allocations. Now, personal use is fine, but one of the things when you're using the chatbots without the enterprise context, you don't own the copyright to the output. And so, that's the other reason you just got to think it really carefully. What do I get out of SLFs, vertical models? And those SLMs and vertical models, they're going to run in a hybrid environment. Will have cloud. It will have on-prem. And having an intelligent architecture is a G5. That's real critical. The rest of the general purpose stuff, it's great. It's you may use. Also, it's a things. But if your business is your business, really designed to use this was.
Well, it reminds me of safety was hauling flour. Cloud first. Cloud smart. Here we're seeing hybrid cloud, right where everything is. If I architect it appropriately, then I'm not affected by outages. I'm not affected by data breaches. It can handle everything. So we have to use that same architectural elements that we've been developing the last 20 years in AI as well. We can do hybrid AI, hybrid Gen AI.
See, it's interesting because, it's very similar to the cloud, right? It used to be just too fast, lift and shift. And then everyone says, wait a minute, this is way more expensive. Why is this expensive? And then they had to leave the workbooks. I think it's the same principles.
So this has been great. I have to talk to the.
Thank you.
Yeah, we should. You should come on the show more often.
Awesome. Good luck.
All right. Hey, thanks again, Mike.
Thank you, Darren.
Thanks for listening to Embracing Digital Transformation. If you enjoyed today's conversation, give us 5 stars on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube. It really helps others discover the show. If you want to go deeper, join our exclusive community at patreon.com/embracingdigital, where we share bonus content and you can always connect with other change makers like yourself. You can always find more resources at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, keep embracing the digital transformation.